night, everyone. Meteorologist Marissa Wallace in here to talk about some bitterly cold temperatures, potentially also continuing into February. We will see how it goes as we continue through the next couple of days and maybe even past that. Again, meteorologist Marissa Wallace in here in the 7 First Alert Weather Center here to talk about what we've got going on. But first, we're going to start off with right now conditions and what we are looking at. Sorry, I'm looking at my graphics, which I just had it all up, and then now I can't even find it. All right, so what we're going to look at right now, what we have going on. So we have cold temperatures in place at this moment, and because of the cold temperatures and cold wind chills expected tomorrow morning, half of our area is under a cold weather advisory. It goes into effect at midnight tonight through 10 o'clock in the morning. In all the counties you see in this kind of bluey green teal color, we're expecting wind chills to be around about 15 degrees below zero. But if you're wondering, well, why isn't the southern half of the region in that? Well, that's because we are going to be warmer. It's still going to be cold though overall. I want to just kind of get that out there because it is going to be cold out there. And I like how I'm explaining this to everyone. And there we go. Now we got to get to the map. I always forget to press the button. Anyways, again, the colors here that if you're in that pinky green color, that is the cold weather advisory. This is issued usually when wind chill values are expected to be 15 degrees below zero. And that is what we're expecting in these counties. But Washtenaw, Wayne, Lenawee, and Monroe counties are not in this advisory. It is actually going to be warmer. However, it is still going to be cold. We are looking at cold conditions, and I want to take a look at our wind chills expected as we move into Friday morning. So wind chills across the area are expected to be cold. As you can see here, we are looking at cold wind chills around zero or 15 degrees below zero. There is a sharp cutoff, which you can kind of see here with that blue color and then down in this direction. I don't think Adrian's going to get to the -7 wind chill here, just having a little problem adjusting this number, but I do expect the cold up here and a little bit warmer down here, and there's a reason why, and I'll show you it coming up in just a bit. But let's fast forward and take a look at the actual air temperatures expected in the morning. It is going to be cold despite having colder wind chills or not. Across the entire area, we are looking at below zero temperatures. Yes, it's going to be colder off to the north and a little bit warmer off to the south, but still looking at temperatures sliding below zero. So please bundle up as you step out the door tomorrow morning. Now, these temperatures will happen closer to 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. We'll start to make up a little bit of ground as we get towards sunrise, but overall it's cold. All right, let's get to the reason of why this is happening, right? Well, it is because we have clouds or we don't have clouds. So if you remember, again, where we have the advisory in place, where we also have cold temperatures even right now, look at all of the clear skies here. Down in this direction, a lot of clouds, and that's where we still have temperatures in double digits right now. I know it's still cold, but there is a difference. Clouds at nighttime act like a blanket. They trap in whatever heat that we gain throughout the day. Think of it as a blanket at night. When you're sleeping, you have that blanket on, you're warm. The moment that blanket gets kicked off or pulled away from you, you get cold, right? So similar idea to what's going on here at the surface. The clouds trap in some of the long wave radiation. If there are no clouds, well, you don't get that. So all of that heat just goes off into space and it leads to colder temperatures. So what's going to drive the coldness tonight and the colder wind chills is actually not the winds, but it's the fact that you're either having clear skies longer or you're going to have cloudy skies to trap in some of the warmth. Honestly, winds overall are about 5 miles per hour or less. But when our temperatures are this cold, it does not take much of a wind to make it feel even colder out there. So that's why, again, we had this cold weather advisory in place for those wind chills. Another look at the clouds here, I'll put it into motion, and you can see there is a quite a divide. This will catch up in just a second and show some movement with the clouds. There you go. So you can see pretty much along let's see, where are we at? 75, which is making that the highway line there. We've got clouds to the west and then also looking at clear skies. So following this line right down here, cloudy skies all over here, clear skies over here. So this is where, again, we're looking at the cold conditions, while over here, yes, it's cold, but we're in the double digits. Also some lake effect snow off of Lake Huron. We're not worried about that, but I wouldn't rule out a couple more flurries throughout the rest of this week and into this weekend. But I think our biggest focus is still going to be on the cold, because as we take a look at Futurecast and playing this through tonight, and what you you can expect, you can see we continue to see clearer skies up towards the thumb, cloudier skies off towards the south, though that cloud deck does start to shift a little bit farther to the south. That's why we will have some colder wind chills through the city of Detroit and then in some other counties that are right on the dividing line, while it stays a little bit warmer farther to the south. Eventually, actually, we're all going to see some sunshine tomorrow. That's going to help us warm up back into the double digits, but it's going to take us some time to get to that point. So just a little look at that. So temperatures again tonight will be below zero. Wind chills will vary either anywhere from just about 0 degrees, especially the closer you live to the state line, to potentially looking at wind chill values up to about 15 degrees below zero. I want to take a look at the 7-day forecast because there is some hope in our future that we're going to warm up, but warm again is relative compared to what we have already been dealing with. Tomorrow's high, 13 degrees. So it's not going to be warm, but we should have a fair bit of sunshine. Mostly sunny skies expected across the area. Wouldn't rule out a couple flurries though. Friday night or tomorrow night, we are back into temperatures around zero, with many of us falling below zero, just with again the clear skies. Now Saturday, a couple more clouds, better chance for some flurries out there, but we'll make it up to about 20 degrees. So some improvement expected, and more 20s are in our future. Crazy to think that 20s sound amazing, right? Am I right? Because that's where I'm at. I'm like, yeah, 27, it's gonna be so great, even though it is still gonna be cold. But we're getting close to the freezing mark. We're just not quite there just yet. Feel free to, of course, let your messages come in if you have any questions about our forecast and what we can expect. So, all right, this is what we've got going on as we move into the next week. But to focus on stuff a little bit more, so February starts on Sunday. Of course, we have Groundhog's Day on Monday. We'll see what the groundhog says. I'm sure if we have, I can't remember what animal is here. I have to look it up. There's a good chance for clouds and some snow, which would be in our benefit because that means that the groundhog wouldn't see its shadow or hedgehog or whatever it is, and then it wouldn't hide back away and we'd have 6 more weeks of winter. That would mean early spring. So we'll see if that plays out on Monday. But that right now, looking at clouds and a good chance for a little bit of snow, about 1 inch expected on Monday. But overall, again, looking at some chilly conditions expected across the area. So this takes us through, let's see, February 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Well, what's going to happen after that? Are we going to continue this warming trend? Are we going to get up to the freezing mark? Well, it's not really looking that likely. Now here I want to take a look at our temperatures overall. Now these are 850 millibars. These aren't right at the surface, but these are just above the surface for our temperatures. Right now we still have Arctic air in place. I don't even have to tell you, right? It has been cold. It is going to continue to be cold. However, this push of Arctic air does start to fizzle out a bit, and we are going to see some warmer air try to move in from the west-southwest. That'll bump up our temperatures just a little bit. So we are going to be looking at, again, the 20s as we head into this weekend, and we keep those 20s as we move into next week. But there will be some colder air trying to edge through, so that's why we're not going to warm up to temperatures into the 30s. We're still going to get pushes from time to time of some chillier conditions, but we really don't get a big push of Arctic air, at least for about the next week or so. So you can still see some pink here. That's indicating some colder air coming through. Now, as we get towards the end of next week, though, and into next weekend, we are likely going to get another push of some Arctic air that would lead to some cold temperatures yet again across the area. Now, one of the reasons for this that could happen is because we have had a stratosphere warming event. Now, when that happens, what happens is the polar jet loses its strength just a bit, kind of becomes, think about it, more wobbly, and you can allow some of that Arctic air to escape its containment and come rushing down to some of the our latitudes. I was going to say lower latitudes, yes, so coming down closer for us. So that's why we are likely going to have some colder conditions as we get into February, maybe the first week of February, maybe even a little bit after that. And I want to also touch on this, which is released by the Climate Prediction Center. Obviously, blue, it means colder. So the eastern half of the country is likely going to have below average temperatures as we get into February 6th through 12th. So this takes us past the 7-day forecast and taking a look as we start to get towards the middle of February. Below average temperatures are likely, and this does align with that Arctic push that you just saw, that air coming in starting next weekend, which would get us around this time frame, or at least the beginning of it. So below average temperatures are likely for us as we move into the middle part of February. You might be wondering, well, what are average temperatures by then? Well, I've got your answer. Okay, so our average highs during this time frame are 33 to 34 degrees. Our average lows are 19 to 20 degrees. So still fairly close to the freezing mark for our average highs. So if we're below that, it means we're still going to be below freezing, still looking at cold temperatures across the area. So there's a good chance that we keep this chill around. Now, there is some indication that we may warm up towards the end of the month. We'll see if we get to that. But overall, we're likely going to at least carry in the colder conditions into the middle part of February. So yeah, I don't have much of a break in our future. The only thing that you can look to with a little hope, with a little gleam in your eyes, are the fact that yes, we have 20s in our future as we get into next week. So far we've had 8 days with temperatures below freezing. We're likely going to add on another 7, if not more than that. So it has been a while. So I keep saying this is a terrible meteorology joke, but it's like everyone's like, it's freezing outside. And I'm like, actually, it's below freezing, right? So you can go tell that to all your friends. All right, what questions do you guys have for me about this? If you notice, not really talking about any major snowstorms or anything like that. There is the potential that we could get some, aside from Monday, looking at about an inch of snow. So it's going to be more of one of those nuisance snow in that you're going to have to shovel. You're going to have to be prepared for some slippery driving conditions. But overall, the amount of snow isn't a ton, but it still creates problems all across the area when it comes to the roadways. But temperatures will be in the 20s, and that's going to play a key factor because guess what is effective when you get into the 20s? Salt becomes more and more effective, especially when our temperatures get into the mid to upper 20s. So there's a good chance that we have the use of salt, which should hopefully continue to break down a lot of the snow-packed roadways that we do have outside in quite a few spots. We're also going to be looking at the potential midweek that we could have another snow kind of storm. I don't want to say storm yet, but Wednesday, one model has a nice storm coming through us. The other one, nothing at all. So we'll wait to see if we get some agreement on that. But as of right now, I'm not tracking any system that is going to bring us a very impactful winter storm. I think for us right now, it's just mainly the focus is trying to stay warm as we continue to have the cold temperatures in place. We're bottoming out right now for at least this phase. We will warm up next week, and then eventually again looking at potentially colder temperatures as we move towards next weekend, and then through the middle of February, good chance to have below average temperatures. But I want to backtrack again and take a look at what we've got. Again, a cold weather advisory is in place for the northern half. If you live in Sanilac, Lapeer, St. Clair, Livingston, Oakland, and Macomb counties, this advisory starts at midnight and goes until 10 a.m. Wind chill values are expected to be about 15 degrees below zero, but our air temperatures right now are even about 5 degrees below zero in many spots in these regions. So please limit your time outside. Make sure neighbors are also staying warm too. I know we've had this extended time of some cold conditions. Farther to the south, we're not going to see wind chills near 15 degrees below zero, but we're still going to see wind chills below zero because our air temperatures are still expected to be below zero. So let's take a look at forecasted wind chills. Again, these are just kind of put on by a model, so the exact numbers here I don't want you to pay attention to. What I want you to kind of more look at is that it is going to be colder north than it is going to be south. We just talked about it if you're just joining this because clear skies are happening right now north, and we have cloudy skies farther to the south, and that is going to continue as we move overnight. I actually want to take a look at our sky cover at this moment. You can see Lapeer right now, Port Huron, Port Sanilac, all reporting clear skies, and that is where we have temperatures below zero, 8 below in Port Sanilac, 6 below in Lapeer, 2 below in Port Huron. Otherwise, we're looking at temperatures right on the fringe through Mount Clemens, Pontiac, and Flint in the single digits, and then everyone else is in the double digits right now because we've had the clouds come in, and that's trapping in some of the warmth. So we may even get some spots that don't fall below zero, where right now we're in double digits, but we're still going to get close. It is still going to be cold as we get into tomorrow morning, especially as this cloud deck does start to shift farther to the south. That would again slowly, think about this again, you're sleeping and then someone is slowly pulling the blanket off of you, your leg starts to get cold, then the other leg. That's how it kind of works, you know? So a slow process. We're going to see something like that as we get into tomorrow morning. I'll look at our forecasted lows for tomorrow morning. We are expecting, for the most part, below zero. Again, there is a chance that for those of you in Lenawee and Monroe counties, you might not make it to the -2, -3. It might be more like zero as you wake up tomorrow morning, but we are going to be looking at cold conditions nonetheless. If you're wondering if these are records, no. If you take a look up at the banner, you can see over there, our record low is 13. So we're not close to that. And we're not as cold as what we had last week, where our air temperatures were around about -10. So we're a little bit warmer than that, but still overall it is cold. Frostbite, hypothermia can happen in a very short amount of time. All right, let's see. Someone saying about parents, seems like school will be in session. There's a good chance that a lot of schools will be open tomorrow. I think we'll see some closures. I think we already have a couple, but I do not expect widespread closures tomorrow morning because a lot of schools, their threshold to cancel school for a cold day is 20 below zero. There's a chance for that up towards Lapeer and Sanilac counties in some spots, but overall, a majority of us are going to stay away from that. We're going to be warmer, and it's thanks to the fact that our winds are fairly light. Let me actually see if I can pull up our current wind speeds because I don't expect them to really change much overnight. So you can see a lot of places reporting calm right now. If you're not reporting calm, reporting like 5 to 8 miles per hour, a little stronger in through Windsor at this moment. But overall, looking at light winds continuing overnight tonight. So it won't be much of a wind chill. It's just our temperatures are getting so cold. So I think, again, tomorrow there will be a couple closures, but not a lot of school closures across the area like we had last week with the cold temperatures near 10 below and the breezy conditions. So that really made it feel a lot colder. I would love to provide better outlooks, you know, with giving us some warmer temperatures. I'm right there with you. As a parent, I feel like it's so crazy to just, it's so annoying. That's the right word, not crazy, annoying to have to, you know, put on all your layers and then have everyone else have layers too so that you're warm just to do the tasks that you normally do, right? I was just saying today, I can't wait to the day where we slip on flip-flops and we walk out the door, right? That would be so nice. We can dream about that. We still have some time before we get to that because obviously you can see here on the 7-day forecast, it's going to continue to be cold over the next couple of days. Again, with the snow chances here, Saturday, just some flurries. We'll definitely have more clouds across the area Saturday. Sunday will be sunnier. We are looking at 20s both days and then upper 20s Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. A good chance for some snow on Monday. Right now looking at about 1 inch of snow. Wednesday's a bit more up in the air. Of course, that's the 6th day on the 7-day forecast, and we do expect some more changes. One model really indicating some snow, the other one having nothing at all. So we'll see if we can get some agreement as we get closer towards the end of the 7-day, middle part of next week. But like I just mentioned before, I don't think we're really going to see much relief as we head throughout February. I'm not seeing any big signals that would indicate warming conditions, a change in overall pattern. Yes, we are expecting the El Nino pattern, or ENSO I should say, from going from La Nina to ENSO neutral, which would be in between, which would support that we would kind of change the jet stream track and wouldn't necessarily continue to have the jet stream drop down from our west and then kind of cut up back towards our east. That usually drives a lot of storm tracks, also pulls in some colder air. But with a change to ENSO neutral, we shouldn't necessarily see that track as much. We'll see if that pans out at this point. It should, because that's usually what we have happen. However, again, we just talked about the fact that there appears to be a stratospheric warming event that happens, so that can happen, and then what happens there is it weakens the polar jet, and then some colder Arctic air, polar air, is able to make its way down to the lower latitudes, and that usually takes some time. So you'll have the stratospheric warming event, and then it takes a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, before you get that cold air coming down. So that's why we're looking at the potential as we get into February to see some of the colder conditions. Now, explain colors here. Pink is colder than even that light blue color. Pink is when our highs are mainly in the teens and 20s. So we'll try to get some of that colder push coming in, but it's really not going to happen until we get more so into next weekend. So we'll get through tomorrow. Then we get through most of next week in the 20s, and then next weekend, that's when that Arctic air comes back. And this is Friday next weekend into Saturday, and then you can see cold air February 7th across the area, and we'll continue to get that Arctic push for a bit, though we'll see if we can break this down a little more and lead to some warmer conditions. But everything's still leaning towards colder. We keep it at this. When I say colder, I'm not saying we're going to continue to get colder down lower. No, we're just going to keep it at the cold kind of pattern all the way for at least another 2 weeks that we're looking at. But maybe looking at some warmer conditions towards the end of February. So I wish I would have some better news, because yes, it'd be nicer to get warmer conditions. Obviously, it impacts a lot of people that are outside. Also, maybe just your utility bill. That is going up because you're using your heat so much, more than also that you'd want to, just to keep your house at a comfortable temperature, not even to make it super warm, right? So I know it's also impacting infrastructure. We've had a lot of water main breaks too because of that, and that's just due to the ground continuing to freeze. And when groundwater freezes, it expands, and then that leads to, unfortunately, potentially some pressure on pipes, and those burst. Also, we've had a lot of potholes already out there, right? That's that freeze thaw going on. So we keep having cold temperatures, and if we're able to see any of that thaw, then it turns to like a slushy mix in the pothole, and then it may freeze again. So you know how all that works. So that's what we're looking at. Just wanted to give you an update again. I wish I had some better news that we're going to warm up, but we're likely not really going to see warmer conditions. I should say a warm up, because it is going to get warmer, but I'll leave it on the 7-day forecast. And like we were talking about before, it's going to be warmer, but not necessarily warm. However, 27 degrees, which is our high on Monday, is going to feel good. Honestly, it's going to feel much better than what we've had over the last couple weeks. So I'll leave it up there. I'll see you guys again. You can tune in tonight at 10 or 11. And then Mike will be back in the morning tomorrow tracking our current temperatures at that time, as well as wind chills at that moment. And then I'll be back in the evening getting you ready for the weekend. Have an update on snowfall as we round out January and head into February. Let's see if we can pull for some warmer conditions, right? All right. Well, have a great Thursday night, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow.